Well, that was a perfect segue to why we brought you
Mhm.
on today, because you have that wide range now and as a digital
Mhm.
marketing strategist. So you are going to share with us some ways to brand ourselves as freelancers. I know my own students struggle with this. We get the clients right
Mhm.
away inside my course and my
Mhm.
work group, and then we kind of like table doing this branding
Right.
stuff and like our own
Right.
websites, our own social media. So tell us
Yeah.
like what you want to teach us today, because I know everyone's like hungry for this information.
When I taught myself web design, I was literally just teaching myself how to build the website, the coding part of it. How does HTML and CSS work together? Like I started building my websites from scratch versus using Elementor or Divi, or, like using a framework. I wasn't doing that. I actually taught myself all the technical stuff. But what was more important was the branding part. It's hard to build a website for someone, even for yourself. It's like, I think the hardest thing is building a website for yourself because you're so close to the project, right? And so me as the expert, I need to help my clients figure out a few things. And the most important thing is like, who's your target audience? Because you love rainbows and sunshine, but you have your clients over here, your actual clients, they're like more corporate and they're not into that type of stuff. Like you wouldn't have that same color palette or same vibe on your website if that wasn't going to appeal to your target audience. And so I think that a lot of times people also think that they could serve everyone. Now, you can work with anyone who you want, right? But in your branding, you need to really hone in and focus in on one person. And so in marketing, we call this the power of one. And what the power of one does is it helps you to hone in, focus on that one person. You're able to write your copy better. You're able to create better imagery that speaks to them. And you're just overall able to like develop your products and your services specifically for that person. That doesn't mean that you can't add another person in later, but it just really helps you especially when you're starting, to just focus on that one person. And that doesn't mean like, oh, you define this person and then like you never update it, you never like change it. This whole branding thing can be changed. It can be updated. And so the most important thing is your target audience.
Oh my gosh, I see that all the time with our quiz funnel clients that we are doing that are trying to build this whole marketing funnel, and it always goes back to that. It always does.
Right.
And it's
That's why your
painful.
copywriters want to
Yeah.
know, like, who is your target audience, because, all these things that it all revolves around that. And I think it's so hard for people though.
So what else should we be working on with our branding? Because I mean, I think let me go back to that for a second, because as virtual assistants, like we're kind of like the catch-all Jill of all trades.
Mhm.
That really is difficult for us, but we know that
Right.
even a copywriter, like the more narrowed down you get and more specific, the
Mhm.
higher you can charge. So you could be like a copywriter for like productivity, tips, but if you're
Right.
like productivity tips for doctors, like
Right.
you get to charge
Then
more
you know
that
who
way.
it, right, and you
Yeah.
know who to like reach out to.
Yeah.
And so I have this little forward question freebie that you guys can go grab it. It's on my website, but that will help you really hone in on who that person is. And like even with a web designer, like I can design a website for anybody, so I get it. It's really hard,
Yeah.
right, to hone in on that one person. But once you do, you will find that it makes everything so much easier for you. That doesn't mean, like, most of my clients are female entrepreneurs and most of them are in the coaching industry, but that doesn't mean that I can't work with somebody who's a man who isn't
Yeah.
an entrepreneur, right? It just means that when I write my marketing copy, when I create my products and services, I am writing it for them, for my female entrepreneur who's into health and wellness, who's a coach. But okay, so number two is really, it's positioning. And so positioning is really like figuring out what makes you different. And I think that that's another problem that people have especially as entrepreneurs, right? Like we don't know what makes us different. Like, I don't know. I'm just a mom. I'm an entrepreneur. Like I make websites. Like, I don't know what makes me different, right? So once you can figure out what makes you different, that is another thing that's going to help you to hone in and focus. Like my background, with my kids, and then having been able, being all into systems and, like automation and all that stuff, that's something else that helps me stand out, because not all web designers are into that. Not all web designers know how to design and develop, right? Some of them just know how to design. And so these are things that, because I don't think that they're a big deal. They're a big deal. But just like you, because you can do all these digital marketing things, that's what makes you different. Not all VAs can do that. So, once you figure out the one thing that really, and it could be more than one thing, like literally you can list them out and use those little things in your marketing. Like the fact that I had PCOS, the fact that I had infertility for 5 years, the fact that my husband cheated on me, the fact that my sister died and I have 2 extra kids, like all these things are what makes me different and help people to relate to me, because I'm able to share more about me that they can actually relate to.
Yeah.
So making sure that what I find is that a lot of people are afraid to put themselves out there, right? But if you make that list of your positioning elements, things that are really going to help you stand out, make that list. That might help you to really feel like, okay, this is something that I can talk about that doesn't make me uncomfortable. Especially when I first started, I was really concerned about being judged, right? Because I had been in corporate forever.
One thing I've had to flip into something positive, and people who have listened to this podcast before know this, but I have a resume that's all over the place, like jobs every 18 months. And then when I really think about that, my unique selling position there is that I am adaptable, and I have this breadth of experience. So I can turn that military spouse thing that normally used to embarrass me into something positive. And that's one thing I know some of you guys can run with, whatever your past experience was, can be something huge, especially if you get the clients in that industry. Like today, I just posted a job for a birth coach coach. And so I know that some women in my group have some kind of story probably related to their own birth. I mean, we all do, in their own labor, their own journey. And that can make them a credible contractor for them to hire. So interesting.
Yeah.
All right. What's your number 3?
Okay. So my number 3 is something that we already talked about, which was being consistent, right? Being online, showing up, scheduling things out is what really works for me. But also in inconsistency, that also means being consistent in your brand. And so what I see with a lot of people is they change their brand colors about 15 times. They change their fonts. They see somebody else's stuff and they're like, oh, I love that script. I'm going to change everything, right? Or they'll keep everything on their website the same, and then they'll just post stuff on social media that's completely different than what their brand looks like. So then it becomes unrelatable, right? It's they don't recognize it as your stuff because it's not consistent. And so I have to always try to teach my clients that when you have your brand board that has your colors, your fonts, your different logos on there, and even your patterns, right? Your patterns need to stay the same. For me, I use a lot of squares on my website. So squares and rectangles, but so you will really rarely see me ever using a circle. And it's just because everything that I use already is squares and rectangles. So if I was to add that, I just feel like it would not be consistent or cohesive with the rest of my brand.
Wow, you really took that down to the granular level. And I get that, because if you're running a Facebook ad and it doesn't match the landing page, people drop off that and don't convert because they're whoa, what just happened? That doesn't match. I don't trust this person anymore.
I don't even know who this is, right? Or they see this ad and then they click over to your site and it's not even related. It doesn't have to be, they don't have to be twins, just like your eyebrows, right? They don't have to be twins. They need to be sisters. So the same thing, I have 3 different websites. They all have the same color palette and fonts, but they're all different. And so, I make them all different, but they're same, so that they're recognizable.
Okay. That makes so much sense. And yet, like, consistency is the theme I see with my own clients, like, just
Mhm,
for the long term, because people are watching you, they're waiting, and then
mhm,
I see people changing their offers all the time and their audience all the time, and
mhm.
like, it's happening so much that I start to wonder if you're
Confused.
flaky or like, can I
Right.
trust you? You know, it all goes down to that no like trust factor. But I see
Mhm.
that happening all the time now that I've been, promoting myself on Instagram consistently. I'm just shocked by that. Like, people need to know that you're gonna like stick around and stay consistent.
Yeah, I think, and that goes with my number four, though, is like you can change your
Yeah.
stuff, but when you change it, change everything, right? Like, don't just change the font on this website thing. Change it over here on your social too. You
Yeah.
like change, and but like I was saying, your brand can develop over time, so it's okay to pivot a little bit
Yeah.
slowly and to adjust and to change. However, change, pivot, stay there for a little while, see how it works, pivot a little bit more. You can change and pivot, especially as entrepreneurs. I think that a lot of times we think like, oh, I'm going to be doing this forever, and sometimes, especially when new people come to me and they're like, I want this new website, this new brand, and they're willing to spend thousands of dollars on it. And I say, well, here's what's going to happen. You're going to start doing this, and in a year, you're going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And you're going to change the whole thing, scrap it all, start all over, So it's better to start slow and then, work your way up, which is where I was saying, like, really honing in on your person will help you, because then you'll have this like one little thing, right? But usually our target audience is us at the beginning of our journey.
Yes.
And and so, like, yes, you can change, but just know that you can pivot and change, but just and try to do it in a way that's not confusing, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. And like you said, so that doesn't they don't lose trust in
Yeah.
so it's a really slippery slope there, because you don't want to just change like every week, change your offers, or and I think that a lot of people do that because, one, shiny object syndrome, but two, they feel like, this isn't working for me fast enough,
Yeah.
so I need to adjust and pivot, right? And that's not always the case.
Oh my gosh, I feel like you're speaking about my own brand because, I didn't promote myself, talk about myself, have any kind of site or social media for years. And then I finally started doing that in end of 2018, 2019, and I just
Mhm.
got something up fast. And then over the next 3 years, like, my voice is developing, my brand is developing, like, I'm figuring out more like who's successful, and I changed from there. But I think what you're trying to say is, like, once you make that decision, like, really stay
Yes,
consistent.
stay there, stay
Yeah. Yeah,
there.
and we're not talking about
Yeah.
like flopping all the time, but like, my
Right.
brand has been in growth mode and like an evolution,
Mhm.
phase. And I just even muted down some of my colors, like, to be a little bit like more professional.
I think a lot of people, they do come to me and they're like, I want black, white, and blush, or something like
Blush.
really simple. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you also like have the varying like shades of your brand, because also that helps it to become, so when you're first starting out, a lot of times you have maybe 3, 4 colors, right? But as your brand starts to develop, I think I have 8 colors, maybe 9,
Oh, okay.
so, and I use those for different accents and ways of, so your brand, as it develops, can become more complex and more in depth,
Yeah.
which that's one way that you can tell the difference between someone who is, maybe newer versus someone who is not as new, because
Oh,
they have a more complex brand, I guess you could say it.
okay.
But I heard one person say one time, and I always thought that this was interesting. She said, with her own brand, she just kept on making new offers and making new offers and just throwing them up against the wall and just trying to see what would stick.
Yeah.
And finally, once that one thing stuck, then she just took that one little thing and made it more offshoots of that thing, which I think is really smart, because in the entrepreneur space, you can offer like 15 different things, right? Because you think that that's what you should be doing. But when you hone down and you offer maybe just the 1 or 2 things, then I think you're more successful in that way, because you become known than for that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that really kind of ties back to that blue ocean, red ocean strategy too.
Hmm.
Like that known in the smaller pool. And then like you can get bigger after that and more broad, but starting broad isn't gonna help you get the clients. Think I like pattern interrupts. Like I get bored
Hmm.
with the same dang graphic every time, the same podcast graphic, and
Hmm.
I need
Hmm.
like a playful mix of things. So I
Yeah.
like having a couple different colors. By the way, I'm
Yeah.
a 5-color brand right now.
So you can, so all you have to do is just like take one of your favorite colors and, just change the saturation, make it super low so that, and what I like to do is like do that so that that's maybe a background on a website or something like that. That's not like super vibrant and, a black background with white text or whatever. It's the opposite where it's like super light text with the, just to create some kind of definite, separation,
Oh,
stuff like that.
that's a good tip. I also discovered I use like a eyedropper Chrome extension all the time. And I
Mhm.
realized like I didn't even know. I would just use it to get the hex code. And now it lets me like cut the numbers down
Yeah.
and find complementary colors. I'm like totally nerding out on all of them. I'm like, oh, it's like telling me what I should do. And of course, like Canva does that now. And
Mhm.
but that's a really good suggestion to just stay in that color palette, lower
There's
the
these,
opacity.
color generators, I think like Color Hexa, I think it is, it will actually create like the full color palette. Like let's say that you find this one color that you really love, then you just take it to Color Hexa and you can actually play around with creating a color palette for yourself.
Okay.
But, that's part of the branding process too, is defining like the actual tone or like what the feeling is that you want to project with your brand. And so once you do that, is what I have my clients do is go then find the visual equivalent of that word inside of like Pinterest or something like that and make a private board. And what you'll see is you'll have about 20 or 30 different pictures in there, and you'll be able to see a pattern kind of emerge from there. As long as you're not doing it intentionally, right? Like you're not going in there and like, oh, I want all beach pictures and you have everything as a beach. Like that's not going to work for you. So one thing that I like to use an example of is like people, they don't understand like, well, how can I like what would be a visual equivalent of certain words, right? Like, so if one of your words is like inviting or something like that, maybe it's like an open door or open barn door or something like that, and you find one that's like the perfect color for you. Maybe it's this gorgeous white glass door, maybe it's like a beautiful bold, teal door, something like that, but that would be your visual equivalent of what in your mind inviting looks like. And then that's when you would take those 20, 30 images and you can narrow them down to about 5 or 6. And that's how you would use your color picker, and you would pull out some colors and make sure that that's how you would make your color palette so that it then evokes that tone, that feeling that you want to create for your brand.
Oh, I love that. I love that tip. I should have used all of this over the summer. I did a WordPress to Kajabi. What am I trying to
Conversion.
say? Like transfer. Yeah. And I did that for a client thinking it was just straight up like, I will move the content. And it
Right,
was
right.
not.
No,
And I knew whatever I did was going to be 10,000 times better than what it was, but it
right,
like opened up the floodgate to all of those branding questions that I was like
right,
unprepared to handle and didn't want to. Um,
right, right,
so I wish I would have taken some of those tips and steered the client in the right way, or charged more and added that as part of it. And like
right.
now I know if even if it's a site transfer, there's still going to be elements that change and to do that work. All right.
So
So what?
for all of my, I'll go to number 5 next, but for
Yeah.
all of my clients, and this I recommend for any service provider, whenever someone hires me, no matter what it's for, I give them access to my client portal. And on the back of the portal is different stuff. Like there's branding section, there's a website section, there's section with like all the tools and things that I recommend, like how to give feedback to me is back there as well. SEO basics is back there. You know what I mean? So I have all these things as a resource to them for them to use. One, it helps me but two, it helps empower them and help them to actually be prepared. Because what happens is a lot of times they get in there and then they're like, oh, wait, I'm going to have to push our strategy call back because I didn't realize this,
Yes.
or I didn't realize I needed all this copy, because so your copy is what dictates your design, as you know.
Yeah.
So number 5 is always be promoting, right? Always promote yourself. And so this goes outside of even promoting yourself on social media. What this means is like, do you have an email signature in your emails that you're sending out?
Yeah.
Is your profiles of all of your social medias, are they sending people to your website or your offer? Do they even know that you have a business? Like a lot of times people don't even put anything in there, so people don't even know that they have a business. And this is again where the fear comes in. Like people are afraid of somebody else judging them, but you're going to have to get over that if you're going to have a successful business, because fear does not pay the bills. And you're just going to have to get out there, put yourself out there, and make the best of it that you can. And so, making sure that you're always promoting yourself. You can create a service guide, attach that in the bottom of your email if you really want to. You can just always promote yourself. And, because people will, this is what I find to be super frustrating. People want websites. They pay me all this money for a website, but then they don't market themselves. Yeah. They don't send anybody to the website. They literally think that if they build a website, if I build them a website, that they're going to get millions and millions of clients and visitors from it. And that's not how it works. You have to market yourself. You have to send people to your website, whether that's a retargeting ad, whether, like it could be anything, but you have to consistently be sending people to your website.
I am so glad you brought that up, because I was just telling somebody, I don't know who it was, but you do not build a website and it just like launches on its own. Like none of us have like brands that do that, right?
No,
that does not happen. You have to tell people about it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and also like what I like to do is make sure that your profile picture is the same on all of your platforms, and making sure that, your profiles kind of speak to who your target audience is and invite them to, find you and hire you. And, and sometimes that, it's not going to be instantaneous. They're not just going to see you and be like, here, take my money. It's a relationship building, and that's where the consistency comes into place. Once you're consistent, then people will be more likely to hire you.
Yeah, it really is a slow burn there. And you nailed it. Like your personal profile needs to be still optimized for your business. And I've seen so many clients and new freelancers not just link to their Instagram, not link to their business page. And most people, like, we can't remember the name of your business, but we remember you. And I have like stalked people out on their name, and then I'm like, I can't find your business.
Right.
I can find your personal profile.
Yeah, they don't have it on there. No. Or like even in Facebook groups, you'll go in there, somebody will make a comment, and then, you'll go and you'll look at their profile and you're like, okay, but what do you do? Like, I can't even see what you do. Yeah. Or where's your business? I can't see, like, you're not even listing any of that in your profile.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's like 101 there, but sometimes we overlook it because we get busy. But now you guys know, Rita's giving you 5 tips for promoting yourself. And I know this isn't like new to all of you, but sometimes we just need that kick in the butt to do the thing and show up in a bigger way. And I know my people and my students get scared to announce their business and talk about it. And I always tell them, like, that's your number 1 lead generation. Like that inner circle of yours knows business owners. And like, those are sometimes your first clients. So